In this video, we dive deep into the Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire, analyzing its geopolitical implications and impact on the Middle East. We explore the role of Iran, Lebanon, and other key players, as well as the broader consequences on international diplomacy and regional power dynamics. Stay tuned for an expert breakdown of the long-term effects on global security. Israel-Hezbollah Ceasefire, geopolitical implications and analysis. The ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah has significant ramifications, not only for the two primary actors involved, but for the broader geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. This ceasefire, following decades of intermittent conflict and the growing complexity of regional alliances, holds the potential to influence the balance of power across multiple fronts, from sectarian divides to international diplomacy. Historical context: Israel-Hezbollah conflict. The roots of the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah date back to the 1980s. Hezbollah, a Shiite militant group based in Lebanon, was founded with the goal of resisting Israeli occupation in southern Lebanon. The organization's ideological foundation is aligned with Iran's Islamic Revolution, and it has received extensive financial and military support from Tehran. Hezbollah's role as an armed resistance group expanded in the 1990s and 2000s, culminating in the 2006 Lebanon War, where Israel and Hezbollah engaged in a full-scale, month-long conflict. Since then, Hezbollah has positioned itself as both a political actor within Lebanon and a key military force resisting Israeli influence. Israel, for its part, has maintained a posture of deterrence against Hezbollah. Although Israeli forces withdrew from southern Lebanon in 2000, tensions have persisted, particularly over the issue of Hezbollah's missile capabilities and its role as a proxy for Iranian interests. Both sides have engaged in periodic skirmishes, but the potential for a large-scale conflict always looms. The ceasefire agreement. Immediate impact. The ceasefire marks a significant development in the Israel-Hezbollah dynamic. While neither side has acknowledged a direct military defeat, the agreement likely reflects a mutual recognition of the high cost of prolonged warfare. Hezbollah's arsenal, estimated to include over 100,000 missiles, has grown increasingly sophisticated, and the prospect of heavy casualties and infrastructure damage for both Lebanon and Israel has encouraged a temporary halt in hostilities. Key points of the ceasefire include: 1. Cease of cross-border hostilities. Both parties agreed to suspend aggressive military actions along the Israel-Lebanon border. 2. Monitoring by international bodies. The United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, or UNIFIL, has been assigned to monitor the ceasefire, ensuring compliance from both sides. 3. Reopening of diplomatic channels. While not formalized in the ceasefire, backdoor diplomatic communications between Israel, Hezbollah, and involved third parties like the United States and Russia have resumed, albeit cautiously. Hezbollah's importance transcends the Lebanese-Israeli border. Acting as a proxy for Iran, Hezbollah's activities are intrinsically linked to Tehran's broader ambitions in the Middle East. Iran's objective to establish a Shiite crescent of influence, from Iraq through Syria to Lebanon, relies heavily on Hezbollah's military capabilities. The ceasefire, therefore, does not only involve Hezbollah and Israel, but also Iran's position within the regional order. Tehran's economic challenges, exacerbated by sanctions and internal discontent, may have motivated a temporary reduction in hostilities. Iran likely sees value in preserving Hezbollah's strength for future conflicts, particularly in light of the ongoing civil war in Syria and the standoff between Iran and the US over its nuclear program. Hezbollah's dual role as both a Lebanese political party and a militia adds another layer of complexity. While Lebanese citizens increasingly suffer from economic collapse and instability, Hezbollah's focus on its military role has drawn criticism. The ceasefire might offer Hezbollah an opportunity to realign its image as a protector of Lebanon rather than a mere pawn in Iran's geopolitical game. Israel's calculations in agreeing to a ceasefire are no less complex. As a technologically advanced military power, Israel holds significant advantages over Hezbollah. However, it remains aware that any major conflict could draw in other regional actors, especially Iran and Syria, escalating the situation beyond manageable proportions. Israel is also balancing its relationships with other regional actors, including the Gulf states, which have normalized relations with Israel through the Abraham Accords. A full-scale war with Hezbollah might destabilize these newly formed ties or force the Gulf states to reconsider their strategic alliances, especially since Iran has the capability to retaliate against these countries for supporting Israel. Israel's leadership likely views the ceasefire as a means to consolidate its security gains, bolster internal political unity, and focus on domestic issues. It also allows Israel to avoid an immediate humanitarian crisis in Lebanon, which would only fuel anti-Israeli sentiment in the Arab world and beyond. Role of external powers: the United States, Russia, and the UN. The United States and Russia both play crucial roles in shaping the ceasefire's outcome. The US has historically been a staunch ally of Israel, providing it with significant military aid. Washington's interest in stabilizing the Middle East, particularly in reducing Iranian influence, intersects with its desire to see a de-escalation of the Israel-Hezbollah conflict. The Biden administration, with its focus on diplomacy and conflict resolution, likely sees the ceasefire as a way to prevent another flashpoint in an already volatile region. Russia's involvement in the Middle East has increased significantly, particularly through its military presence in Syria. As an ally of both Iran and Hezbollah, Russia's influence in securing the ceasefire cannot be understated. Moscow's ability to act as a mediator between Hezbollah and Israel may offer it increased leverage in other geopolitical negotiations, including in Syria, where Russian and Israeli interests sometimes conflict but are often balanced through tacit agreements. The United Nations, through its peacekeeping force, UNIFIL, is another key player. While UNIFIL has often been criticized for it to prevent skirmishes along the Lebanon-Israel border, it remains the primary international body tasked with ensuring compliance with the ceasefire. The UN's role in providing humanitarian aid to Lebanon, particularly in the aftermath of the country's economic collapse, also makes its involvement in the ceasefire critical. Geopolitical implications: the broader Middle East. The ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah could have wide-ranging implications for the broader Middle East. The conflict between Israel and Hezbollah is often viewed as a microcosm of the larger Sunni-Shia rivalry, particularly the proxy war between Iran, Shia, and Saudi Arabia, Sunni. Any changes in the Israel-Hezbollah dynamic can have ripple effects across the region. Lebanon's stability. Lebanon, a country already on the brink of economic collapse, cannot afford another prolonged conflict. The ceasefire may provide a much-needed respite for the Lebanese government, allowing it to focus on domestic reforms. However, Hezbollah's dominant role in Lebanon's political landscape could continue to destabilize efforts at recovery if the ceasefire does not hold long-term. Syria's civil war. Hezbollah's involvement in the Syrian civil war, where it has fought alongside President Bashar al-Assad's forces, has been a crucial factor in the conflict's outcome. A ceasefire with Israel might allow Hezbollah to redirect its military resources towards the Syrian front or to solidify its gains in the region. Iran-Saudi rivalry. The ceasefire also impacts the broader rivalry between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, which has increasingly aligned itself with Israel as part of a broader anti-Iranian strategy, may see this ceasefire as an opportunity to press for further normalization with Israel. This could deepen the regional divide, particularly in light of recent peace efforts between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Normalization with Arab states. The Abraham Accords, which saw several Arab states normalize relations with Israel, mark a shift in regional dynamics. These states, which have historically been hostile to Israel, may view the ceasefire as a further indication that Israel can act as a stabilizing force in the region. However, a breakdown in the ceasefire could force these states to reconsider their positions, particularly if public opinion in the Arab world turns against Israel. Long-term prospects. Will the ceasefire hold? While the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah is a positive step, its longevity remains uncertain. Both parties have deeply entrenched interests that could reignite hostilities. Hezbollah's ideological commitment to resistance against Israel, combined with its reliance on Iranian support, means that it is unlikely to abandon its military ambitions. On the other hand, Israel's focus on security and deterrence will ensure that it remains vigilant against any perceived threats from Hezbollah. The role of external actors, particularly Iran, the US and Russia, will be critical in determining whether the ceasefire evolves into a more permanent peace or if it merely serves as a temporary pause in an ongoing conflict. Regional dynamics, including the outcome of the Syrian civil war, the stability of the Lebanese government, and the future of the Abraham Accords will all play a role in shaping the next phase of the Israel-Hezbollah relationship. In conclusion, the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah represents a fragile but significant development in Middle Eastern geopolitics. Its impact extends beyond the immediate border, influencing regional power dynamics, international diplomacy, and the internal stability of both Lebanon and Israel. The future of this ceasefire will depend on a complex interplay of military, political, and diplomatic factors, all of which will shape the broader trajectory of the Middle East for years to come.